Okay, Chodesh Tov, everybody. We start on today's daf is Kuf Chaf Hey 125, and we pick up at the bottom of Kuf Chaf Daled Amud Bet, and we are dealing again to remind you with the question about a bechor gets his double portion and stuff that the father already had in his possession, muhzak, not always stuff that was coming to the estate but the father did not have yet. And Rabbi, however, is of the position that if the assets sort of grew naturally, grew on their own, then the bechor does get double. And the Chachamim disagree. And the Gemara also tried to say, you know what, the Chachamim would agree by something that really didn't change. Like if a cow got fatter and a tree got bigger, you don't have to go ahead and start saying, wait a minute, how big was this tree a month ago when our father died, But something that really is new income, like rental income or whatever, or if something really changes substantially, a cow gives birth, right? That's where the debate is. When it's natural growth, not because of investment of the heirs, it happened by its own, does the bechor get a double portion? So Rabbi says yes, and the Chachamim say no. And then the Gemara moves into a really interesting question about a loan and, debts owed to the estate. And also interest owed to the estate if it's from a non-Jew. And here we have, look, it's still up here. Nobody corrected me yesterday. I spelled principal with an A-L instead of an L-E.
Well, principal with an A means he's your pal.
Exactly, I know. The principal is your pal. That's the only way. I still remember it that way. Anyway, Rabbi says, because Rabbi says you get natural growth or whatever of the income, so he says the same way he says rental income, you're not, it's happening on its own. You're not doing anything. So he says you get back, obviously, the principal and the interest are considered in the possession of the father, and the bechor gets double. For the Rabbanon, there were two versions of it. The Shal Chumitam, from Eretz Yisrael, they said the principal is at least considered part of the estate. Okay, that was money that basically, if it was lent out, it initially belonged to the estate. It's coming back. Maybe it has to do with liens, but that's considered to be something that was already in the possession of the estate. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Shmuel says no. Even getting back the principal is something that's ra'ui, is something that was not seen as being part of the estate when the father died. So let's take a look now with that in mind at the Gemara. Okay, Shal Chumitam. So here's another Shal Chumitam. We are picking up on Kuf Chaf Daled Amud Bet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, did we do that already? No, I'm sorry. We pick up Ula Rebbe. Okay, Ula Rebbe. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines from the bottom. Line starts with the word Mibaya. Okay, Ula Rebbe, but Rebbe slow. Do you mean to tell me that Rabbi says that? I'm sorry, we actually read that as well. Okay. Okay. Try again. So, okay. Yes. Okay. Amalei Ravacha. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 lines from the bottom. Try again. Amalei Ravacha bar Rav l'Ravina. So Ravacha bar Rav said to Ravina, Ikla Meimer Lasran. A Meimer dropped into our place, our locality. To our yeshiva or whatever, or our town, the Dorish, and he expounded the following: Bechor noto pishnayim b'milveh, avalo b'ribis. A Bechor gets his double portion in the loan, but not in the ribis. So according to the way that we've structured this, that would be according to if Rebbe would say he would even get interest. That's natural growth. The Rabbanan say no, only what was in the possession, but it would be the Shal Chumitam's version of the Rabbanan. Okay, that is considered to be the principal, the debts owed to the estate. It means the principal is considered to be part of the estate, and the bechor gets double. That's what he said. Okay, so that's what Amemar said. So Amarle, so Ravina said back, Nardai l'tamayu. Amemar is a Nardian, and he's from that yeshiva, and he goes according to his reasoning because the Nardians are of this opinion that the debts owed are considered part of the estate, and the bechor gets double. Where do you see that this is the opinion of Nahardai? To Amar Rabba, because Rabba said, now Rabba is not Nahardai, Gabu Karka Yeshlo, Gabu Mos Einlo. Now we're going to subdivide within this idea that he gets the principal. Is the money that comes in seen as always having been part of the estate? So Rabba says, what does Rabba say? Gabu Karka Yeshlo. Karka is part of the estate.
And cash isn't.
Right, this is Rabba, and cash is not. You know what, let's do that in a different color.
Yeah. How about green?
Green.
For cash.
Green for cash. No, green for not. Cash is not. Okay, that's what Rabbi says. Okay, and Rav Nachman Amar Gabu Mos
Your karka, your estate.
estate. Okay, I'll just write yes. Okay, Rav Nachman Amar Gabu Mos Yeshlo Gabu Karka Ein Lo. So of course Rav Nachman says the mirror image of this. How it wouldn't be interesting if he didn't. So Rav Nachman says karka is no, and cash is yes. Okay, so that's their opposing positions. Now,
But either way, you don't get the interest.
No.
So just on the principle.
just on the principle. Now we have to understand why it should matter cash or karka, which I was about to ask immediately. Okay, but also what we first want to see is that both Rabbi and Rav Nachman are working within the idea that at some time, at least, under some circumstances, the principle of the debt is part of the estate. Okay, everybody sees that. Working within this idea that the principle of the debt is part of the estate, at least, but depending on how it was paid up.
So the machloket is in the form
In the
of
form
the
in which it was
payment.
paid. Right. Now, but before we go on to explore that, the key point, though, is that Rav Nachman is from Nahardah. Rabbah isn't. So when a Maimar said the Bechor gets double in the principle, Ravina said, well, of course, he's from the Nahardah school, and we know that Rav Nachman, Rabbah also, but Rabbah doesn't interest us right now. We know that Rav Nachman also says that the Bechor gets double, as long as it was paid in cash, as long as it was some form. Okay, now, of course, a Maimar said, a Maimar didn't distinguish between how it was paid. So they're not exactly the same position. We'll worry about that a little bit later. But nevertheless, he said, okay, a Maimar's a Nardian, and the Nardah says, among others, the Nardah says that sometimes the Bechor gets the principal, double of the principal of a debt paid off, at least sometimes. Okay, according to Rav Nachman, in the case of cash.
What I never fully understood from yesterday was if there's a star and the interest and the principal is both written into it, why are you making a chiluk between one and the other?
Well, right, between the interest and the principal.
Yeah,
because the interest is totally ra'oi. The interest is new money. It was never part of the estate. Doesn't matter that you're expecting to earn it. It's how's it different than like a rental property?
Well, I guess you can say once
there's a rental property with a
it's
contract.
also not
Okay, well that's that opinion. Thank you very much. But there's a way to say that you're getting back something that was owed, fundamentally that came from the estate. So let's talk for a moment about what at least prima facie is the reason to distinguish. The Gemara is immediately going to ask what difference does it make. Okay, but let's just first say a second why we would think it makes a difference. So Rabbi is the easy position to understand. Karka, why is Karka special by loans? What do you have with land?
Lien.
You have liens. So since you have liens, okay, therefore you could say the father already had those liens. That was an actual monetary, right in that land, and he passed that down, and it's like he already possessed the payment of the loan. So that makes a lot of sense. How about Rav Nachman that reverses it? So the reason karka he doesn't have is that even though the father has liens, if I'm the debtor, I can always prevent the guy from collecting my karka if I can pay him off with other things. I have the right to pay him off with whatever I can. It's when I can't pay him off that he goes and he seizes my karka or the karka that I sold to somebody else. So he says karka you cannot consider to be muhsak. Because even though there are liens, there's no assurance that those liens can be executed. The debtor can always pay you off with something else. But why is cash considered to be that you are muhsak? So one way to say, which the Gemara will about to reject, but I think it's attractive to think of, is at least conceptually. Look, you lent the guy cash, you got cash back, so it's like you're getting back what was already yours. Now, of course, in reality, it isn't. These are different dollar bills than the dollar bills you lent out. But at least conceptually, okay, it's that you got back what was already yours.
Yeah, because the loan is not the value of the paper of the star. The value is the money. Yeah,
right.
It's the abstract.
Right. So it represents the money that was owned. Right. So so that's what the Rashbam says. Wait a minute. Let me just finish.
Is ma'ot like anything like it's equivalent? Can it be jewelry, a diamond ring? Is that ma'ot?
So that's a good question too. What would it be if you pay back with Shava Kesef? Are you allowed to pay a milva back with Shava Kesef? It was also a question. But presumably, like if it was, so that might depend on which explanation you give for why Mos Yeshlo. Okay, so let's look at Tosfos, Gabu Mos Yeshlo. Pirish HaKuntris, Mishum Demos Yoivu Mos Shakyo. Right? You gave money, you got money. So therefore, like conceptually, you're just taking back what's yours. It was always part of the estate. Of course, even though it wasn't the same cash. The Einir, the Shenagach, the Parachamai, Duki Rab, etc. So he goes into a Gemara, which I don't want to get into, but the point is the Gemara says, what if the estate is owed money, not because of a loan, but because of damages done to the estate? Okay, somebody damaged the property and owes them money. They had won a lawsuit and they were owed money. Okay, that's not getting back money you lent out. It's money that's owed, but it's not money you lent out. And the Gemara treats it the same way. So loans aren't limited to loans, even any debts, even debts from money you didn't lend out. So Tosa says you can't say it's because you had them, you got the money back that you're giving. You never gave the money. So what's the reason? So Tosa says, if you we'll just skip to the answer that Tosa says, his reason, he says, if you look 3 lines from the bottom, he says like this, or 4 lines from the bottom, Elanira the time of the Rav Nachman, Damar Gabu Mos Yeshlo, why when you collect money you have it? Mishum Derech Balchov Lifro Bechoval Maot, Lo Karka. Vavi Muchzak Begavu Mos, Mishum Desmichi Alayhu. He says, because the natural thing when you owe money is, sometimes you have to go and seize assets. And sometimes the guy will give you crates of paper clips and say, or stamps or whatever they'll give you. Okay? But the natural thing, what everybody expects to get their loans or their debts, even if it's debts due to damage or whatever the debts are due to, everybody expects to get it paid up with cash.
Otherwise, people would loan money.
Right. So therefore, right. So exactly, because you don't want to get that junk back. So therefore, he's saying when you get karka, you could avoid. It could be you'll never have karka, even though the guy has liens, because the guy could always avoid giving you karka by giving you something else. But when you get cash, that's like the father had already in his own mind, sort of, he had the money owed to him, and he sort of was assuming that he was going to get the cash back. So that is like it was already part of the estate. All right, that's the way he explains it. The cash is, another way you could say it is that if money is owed, right, even if money wasn't lent out, if money is owed, conceptually, if money is owed, money means the cash. That's what it would mean to give the money that was owed. Okay, so therefore, since it was owed, and that was the way it was conceptualized as what the debt was, Rav Nachman says that's like that was already part of the estate.
We even say in English,
right?
Where's my
money? Right.
Show me the money.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand. This is Gogu already, right? It's not like the guy has cash and not land. Or
no, it wasn't Govu in the day. It wasn't Govu before the father died. It was collected after the father died. Anything the father collected is totally part of the estate, right? This is stuff that was collected after the father died. All right. So that's probably also why it says Gavu in the plural. The heirs, the Yomi were Gavu. Okay. So now we have those 2 versions, and at least Rav Nachman is among those that say that the principle, at least under some circumstances, is part of the estate. Okay, like the Nahardians. So now the Gemara says like this: Amalei Abaye l'Rabba. So Abaye said to Rabba, "L'didach kasha." According to you, your distinction doesn't make sense, and Rav Nachman kasha. Rav Nachman's distinction is difficult. L'didach kasha. According to you, it's difficult. Ma'ishna ma'os delo. Why do you say that when the heirs collect the money, that it's not considered like having always been part of the estate? Delav hanimos shavak avuan, because that wasn't the money that the father left over. It's new money. New cash. It wasn't even the money he lent out. Okay, but it's all new. So karkanami. So they should also by karka should not be considered part of the estate. Lav ha-karka shavakavuan. The father didn't leave this land as part of the estate behind. Now that is not such a strong argument because he had liens on the land, so he didn't have the land yet. He had like sort of exercised liens, but he had the liens. Okay, so that's not Rav Nachman's position. Actually, makes a lot of sense. The ode number 2. Ha'atu da'amrit, that's what we have, or marhu da'amar, okay, the master says, because at is too familiar, okay, so Abaye is the generation after Rabba, so therefore they switch the gears to marhu da'amar, the master says, but it's the same point. You yourself are of the position that mistamer taibman b'nei marava, the kadim savta v'zavna zvine. So you say, and this is going to be a case we're going to see on the next Amud, that the position of Bnei Marava makes sense in the case of a grandmother. And what is the case of the grandmother?
Who are Bnei Marava?
Bnei Marava are those of Eretz Yisrael, the people of the West. Okay, now, what is the case of the grandmother? The case of the grandmother is the following, all right? Here is somebody, and this guy says, my property is going to go to my mom. Okay, and he's not dying. This is not a deathbed bequest. He says, "Nechasai li'ima." Okay, V'achareha liyoshai. It's going to go to my mom, and after my mom passes away, it's going to go to my heirs. Okay? So here's his mom. So, okay, it goes to his mom. Now, he's got a daughter.
No sons?
No sons. He's got a daughter. And her daughter is married to a guy. His daughter is married to a guy. Okay? So, what happens? Before the mother dies, tragically, his daughter died first. Okay? And now, the mother dies. So, who is the property going to go to? So, I don't want to totally explore that because that's going to be the next stumble. We're going to get to that. Okay? But you have to know, but the husband here is saying, I should get it. My wife was next in line. So, when she died, that was something that she was entitled to. Okay? And therefore, now that she died, she passed that right on to me. And now I'm going to get the grandmother's property. That's what the husband said. Okay? So that is, now, the reason this is relevant for us is, does the husband get property that comes to his wife after she dies? Do you remember that halacha? The wife dies and then the wife inherits property.
No, because the marriage is severed.
Because the marriage is severed. So the same that's true about the bechor is true about the husband. He's not notel b'ra'oi ki b'muchsak. Property that comes to the wife after the wife died, okay, does not go to the husband, goes to the wife's heirs, like biological heirs. All right. So is this property that came to her after she died, or did she already have rights to it because she was in line to get it? You understand the question? It's sort of like a lien. The father was in line to get the property because he had liens, and then he died. Was that considered in his property? She was next in line to get it, and then she died. Was it like she already had that and passes it on to her husband?
Which was next in line after the
mother, but she has rights. I mean, so therefore, that's the question. Okay, does the husband get it? So B'nai Marava says no. Why does the husband not get it? Because he wasn't really. You can't say that her rights or his rights or whatever, but even her rights were really like assured possession of that property. Because the grandma here could always have sold it. And if she sold it to somebody else, when she died, it would not have passed on. With this point, achareh liyoshai only works if if she dies with the property in her possession. Once she breaks the chain, right? It's like what are those things you're not supposed to break the chain of? Once she breaks the chain, disaster. Okay, so anyway, once she breaks the chain, it's no longer hers when she dies to pass on. Okay, so therefore, B'nai Marava say, I'm sorry, the daughter was not in possession, in partial possession. She cannot pass it on to her husband. The proof is that the grandmother here could have sold it and kept it away from the daughter. So let's just read that. Hamaru da Amar, you're the one who says, Mistaver time of B'nai Marava, the position of B'nai Marava, because what I just told you is the position of B'nai Marava, makes sense that the daughter does not get it. Why? Because if the grandmother were to sell it away, it would be sold away. So therefore the daughter wasn't in possession. So he said the same therefore should be true here. How can you say, you Rabbi, that karka is like it's already in possession of the father, okay? But that's not true. If the debtor sells the karka away, you don't, or pays you off your loan, you don't necessarily have access to the karka. You're not sure that you're going to get the karka. So it should be the same. Now there is an obvious difference. What is the obvious difference? I'm the debtor. I've got land, so I could say, well, I could keep it away from the creditor. I'll just, sell it away. But can I really completely keep my creditor away from that land?
No,
that's what a lien is. So it's possible that I'll be able to pay him off for whatever. But I've never really severed his rights to that land. And if I can't pay him off, he's still going to get it. So I don't know. Well, so I cannot fully remove that land. Here, she can fully get it out of the clutches of the daughter, right? If she sells it away, it breaks the chain. So it is not a good comparison. So Rabba's position is actually quite good. It makes sense why karka you're more in possession of, and it makes sense why you're more in possession of this karka than the daughter is of this karka. Okay, so, but for whatever reason, Abaye asks this question to Rabba. Okay, those aren't so good. But the question on Rav Nachman is much stronger. Okay. Rav Nachman kasha, Rav Nachman's distinction doesn't make sense. Ma'ishna karka delo. Why does Rav Nachman say karka is the bechor doesn't get double, was not considered to be in possession of the estate? Delavar karka shavka avuan. because that karka was not, the father didn't leave it over. It wasn't in the possession of the estate. So most nami lavhanim most shavakavun. So money also he wasn't in possession of. So that we pointed out, it's harder to understand why you're considered more in possession of money, but we described because money is conceptually what the debt is. The debt is money that is owed. So therefore, when you get the money, that's like it was you were already in possession. But anyway, he's putting it out there. What's the basis of the distinction? Number one, the owed, and here there's a contradiction. Ha'amar Rav Nachman himself says, so again, a seeming contradiction, Amar Rabbi Baravua, Yisomim shegavu karka b'chovas avihen, ba'al chov chozer v'gova mehen. Okay, so this is interesting. All right, here we've got some heirs on this side. Okay, here's the dad. He owes $100 to this guy. Okay, to Reuven. Okay, but he's owed $100 from Shimon. So, and then he dies, and then comes along his heirs. Okay, and they go ahead and they collect from Shimon the debt. They collect the piece of property. They take $100 piece of property from Shimon, but it's paying off the father's debt. Then comes Reuven and says, "Thank you very much. Now I think finally your estate has some assets because your father died penniless, but now finally your estate has some assets because that's part of the estate because it was collected by the debts owed to the estate. I'll come now and take my debt from that." Okay, now all of that only makes sense if when they collect a debt, it's like what? That property had always been part of the estate. Right? You understand why? Because if that property is seen as new property, if they went ahead, earned some money, bought some property, Reuven can't come and say, "Pay me up." That's their personal property. That's not the estate's property. So when they collect this debt, this seems to only make sense if you conceptualize it like this property was always part of the estate. Well, if that's true, then when you collect karka, the bechor should get double. That is a really good question, right? Conceptually, here they collected karka, and it's seen as having been part of the estate, and Reuven's entitled to collect from it. So when they collect, why did you say when you collect karka, the bechor doesn't get double?
But the bechor is no different than a creditor.
Yeah,
got
essentially.
Legal rights
Right.
to repossess.
Well, it's a little different. He doesn't have liens or whatever, but anyway, but conceptually, it's part of the estate.
Just a mechanism for the debtor. That's
right,
all.
but conceptually, it was part of the estate. So the Gemara says, so we got these really good questions. So certainly with Rav Nachman, the questions are very strong. So the Gemara says, Amar lehen, so he said back to them, Lo lidi kasha, v'lo Rav Nachman kasha. That's not a problem for me. It's not a problem for Rav Nachman. Why? Taina dimnei marava kamrina, v'lo sfiralan. It's not a problem.
That's not fair.
Because we were only trying to explain what the scope of was when B'nai Marava ruled that way. But we personally don't hold that way. Now, the question becomes two things. Number one, okay, but why were you trying to explain the scope this way if that wasn't your personal position? Why did you try to subdivide it? Right? If your personal, like, why, what made you think that within their position you had to split it that way? That's one question. We'll get back to that. Okay? But the real question is, okay, so what do you hold? Right? So what do you hold? So what the Rashbam says is they both hold that the bechor never gets double. Even whether double most, double karka, they holds like this position. That's what the Rashbam says. Because that's how we're going to paskin, and he wants it to be consistent with that. Okay? So Tosfos says, well, 1 minute. Saying they both hold that it's never part of the estate works for this. I mean, this wasn't a question anyway, but this is basically saying, he never had possession of it. That's fine. That's Rabba's position. But here, you still have a problem. How, according to Rav Nachman, do you collect? If Rav Nachman is of the position that it was never part of the estate, then we still don't know how Reuven collects.
Because there's such a
okay.
thing called.
So what? So 1 minute. So the Rashbam says it's based on a different mechanism. It's based on the idea called Shibuda de Rav Nasan. Okay, which is if he owes him money and he owes him money, we can just eliminate the middleman, and it's like Shimon owed Reuven money directly. So even without conceptualizing it as part of the estate, Reuven already had liens on Shimon's karka. You understand? Because it's sort of like, since you don't bother, let's just make it direct. So therefore, Reuven is collecting the karka not because it was part of his estate, but because even when the father was alive, he had rights to collect from Shimon. That's what the Rashbam says. Okay? But according to the Rashbam, they both hold that nothing is ever part of the estate. Tosfos, that's why there's a huge Tosfos here. Tosfos says, no, the Rashbam got it wrong. Actually, Rav and Rav Nachman don't agree with with this distinctions. These are distinctions within Bnei Marava, but what their actual personal positions are is the complete opposite of one another. Okay, Rabba holds you never get anything. I mean, the Bechor never gets anything. Nothing is seen. None of that is part of the estate, which again is consistent with Rabba's ruling here. Okay, it's never part of the estate. And Rav Nachman holds it's always part of the estate, and that's consistent with his ruling here. So I don't know if I've managed to completely confuse you.
So he holds what? Like, he doesn't like Rabbi.
No, he holds like Shalchum Itam without making a distinction.
No distinction.
And that's why, remember back, a Maimer said, oh, a Bechor always gets double in the loan. And they said, oh, you're holding like the Nardians, like Rav Nachman. But a Maimer didn't make any distinctions. So now, according to Tosfos, in the end, we find out Rav Nachman personally holds like a Maimer. You always get double in the principle without distinction.
Why was he machalik?
So now you have to say, well, why did they think within the position of Bnei Marava you had to make distinctions?
What motivated the
So
split?
look, there's a long Tosfos and Rashbam. They say based on other positions and other sugyot, they felt that within Bnei Marava you had to make these distinctions. Okay, so I don't want to get into it.
But he holds like them.
But personally, he holds an expanded version of that. All right. So anyway, so
wait, but I thought we always passed like our Nachman, and you're saying we're not going to.
Well, that's a good point. Let's see. We'll see where we end up. Okay, so let's read that again. Lola Didi Kasha, Lola Rav Nachman Kasha. So we made these distinctions, and you said these distinctions don't make sense and contradict things we've said. So time at the Bnei Marava Kaminan. We were making the distinctions within the position of Bnei Marava for whatever reasons motivated us. That's not our position. And again, like Tosfos, it's very interesting. Personally, we hold opposite positions. Rabbi says I hold that nothing is ever part of the estate. And Rav Nachman says I hold that it's always part of the estate, and therefore the Bechor always gets double. Not the ribbis, not the interest, but the principal is always part of the estate. Okay, now, my Safta. Let's talk about the grandmother. Okay? What's the story about the grandmother? Okay, Dahu da Amar Lahu, a person said to them, his heirs or whatever, Nichsei l'safta, okay, on my property I'm giving to grandma here. Actually, it's his grandmother. I made it his mother. Okay, it doesn't really matter for the purpose of this story. I just made it the girl's grandmother. It's actually the girl's great-grandmother. All right, not that it matters. So it's his grandmother. Okay. All right, Nirsi L'Safta, so really she died that was very sad there. Okay, Nirsi L'Safta, Ubasra, so my property should go to grandma. Ubasra, and after she dies, Liyarsai to my heirs. Havile Barta, he had a daughter. The Havi Nesiva, and he was married. Shchiva B'chai Bala, and the daughter tragically died while her husband was alive, even before the grandmother died. Ub'chai Safta, and while the grandmother was still alive. Then after the grandmother died, Asabal came the husband, Katava, and he says, I want the property. My wife was in line to inherit. I know I don't inherit in things she gets after her death, but she was in line to inherit. And I'm now here representing her, and I want what she would have gotten. Amar Rav Huna, so Rav Huna says, initially Rav Huna and Rav Anan seem to see the answer to that question of does the husband get depends on how we parse the giver's words. Okay, so Rav Huna said, Liyarsai, he said afterwards it should go to my heirs. So that means, Va'afilu liyarsei yarsai, even my heirs' heirs. Okay, so the husband. Okay, now you could ask, why is the husband considered an heir's heir? Maybe it should be the mother's daughter or the mother's brother, whatever it is. Okay, that's an important question. Okay, but that's initially what he says. And Rav Anan Amar Liyarsai v'lo liyarsei yarsai. No, to my heirs, but not my heirs' heirs. So basically, so the way we're initially looking at it is, the husband has a right to present himself there as not the way I told you before. My wife already had rights and she passed those rights on to me. No. He's not presenting himself. We're here and we're saying, okay, who's this guy's heirs? Because it says the heir, the closest heir gets the property. Who are his heirs? So the question is, well, there are no surviving heirs. But there's this guy who would have inherited from his wife. He's the heir of an heir, as it were, because he would have if whatever, does that put him in line? Does he satisfy the clause that it goes to the heirs? If the answer is no, right, then, and there's nobody to give it to that satisfies the clause of the heirs, because you can imagine this guy could have had other heirs, right? He could have had a brother, right?
Could have had
a
other
sister.
children.
But let's say they're all dead, and the only people or they didn't exist, and the only people alive are 2 degrees removed. Okay, so that would say, well, we can't satisfy the requirements here of the gift. There's nobody to give it to. So it's like this woman died with the property in her possession, and whoever her heirs are would get it. Okay, so that's one way. No, sorry, nobody's around. The husband does not satisfy the requirement, as opposed to saying he does satisfy the requirement. Yes, my heirs isn't limited to my immediate heirs. It includes second degree, and the husband would get it. Now, even within that, it's hard to understand. Because once the wife is dead, the husband is not an heir anymore, right? That's the relationship is severed, as opposed to a wife's daughters or whatever. So it's still funny that he can even present himself as an heir's heir.
But that's a funny way to say it, though, because I'm an heir to somebody who has died. In other words, the person always has to die in order for the heir to come and collect.
Yes, but the relationship persists after death. They're still like related by blood. That's why an heir's heir, a normal heir's heir, gets ra'ui, because even though mom died, she still remains she's still my mother, right? So therefore,
that's the point.
Right. Whereas once the wife dies, he's no longer the man's wife. All right, husband. So anyway, that's why he doesn't get ra'ui, because the relationship, as opposed to a blood relationship, the relationship is severed at death. Okay, but anyway, we're ignoring that for now. Maybe it goes by who was defined in that category when the gift was given. That's a way to solve that. When he made the initial gift, we maybe drew up a list and said, at this moment, who are his heirs? Heir number 1, wife. Okay, any other first level heirs? No. Okay, second level heirs, wife's husband. And we drew up the list when he made the gift. And now the husband is presenting himself, hey, I'm next in line. So that's one way of seeing the debate. How to parse the words. Okay, so let's keep on going. So the Gemara says like this: Shalchu mitam, they sent from there. Hilchasa kevase Ravanan. The lav mitaymei. We rule like Ravanan, who says, which one did Ravanan say? Oh, my heirs, but not my heirs' heirs. The lav mitaymei. The ilu Ravanan savar avagav dahavile bra lebarta lo yaris. For Ravanan, it's nothing to do with the different of the relationship of the husband. Even if it was a biological heir, even if she had a child, right? She was dead, and the child says, okay, I'm next in line. The Ravanan would say, sorry, only first level heirs are included, not second level heirs. You're second level, right? Everybody get that? It's not about the husband. It's about the fact that it only includes immediate heirs, right? Brother, daughter, son, daughter, brother, sister, etc. So according to him, it's how you parse the words, and both of these would be excluded because they're both second level. Okay, but we don't think that's correct. The Havile Barta Yaris. The Lohi, that's wrong. The Ilu Havile Bra Lebarta, if the daughter had a son, Vada Yaris, of course he would inherit. Okay, Ubal Hainu time. So it's not like the words exclude that. Or maybe there's another way of arguing it. It's because she had rights already from the moment that the husband that he gave. There's 2 ways now of saying why the daughter's son would get it. One is what we've been saying. Okay, she dies. Now we look at the initial gift and we say, okay, who's the closest heir around? Oh, no first level heirs. Wait, we got a second level one. That's the way we sat. That's one way of looking at it, right? The other way of looking at it is that as soon as he gave the gift to her, she had some rights in it, and therefore, she would pass those rights down. But one way or another, we're right. They're saying that according to us, according to Rav Nachman, neither of these are included because they're second degree. But according to us, we would say no. The daughter is included. The daughter's child is included. That is an heir's heir is included. So why is the husband not included? The ilu havile bra levarte vada yaris, because it doesn't exclude an heir's heir. Ubal hainu time lo yaris. Here's the reason the husband does not inherit. Mishum dahavile ra'ui the ein abal notel bara'ui kibemuchzak. He doesn't get in stuff that was going to come to him, only in stuff that was already in the wife's possession. So the way of looking at that means, I jumped ahead a little bit a second ago, but the way of looking at that means it sounds like what they're saying. Here's how you conceptualize it. You conceptualize it like the daughter, at the moment he gave the gift, the daughter here had some rights to that property because she was next in line. And therefore, when she died, then she died. And then it's like she had money owed to her. That debt, as it were collected, were collected after her death. So who would it go to? Right? So this is our question that we've been dealing with. Ra'ui versus muchzak.
So the blood relative gets a ra'ui.
So the blood relative gets ra'ui, gets new money coming into the estate, but the husband does not get new money coming into the estate. Now, what makes this new money? And remember, what makes this different than, let's say, a normal debt? The fact that the grandma here can break the chain. That's what we were discussing before. Since the grandma could have sold it away and broken the chain and kept it totally out of their possession, when they get it, it's considered to be totally new money, because she was not assured to get it. He also could have had a son, but that's besides the point. She was not assured to get it, and therefore, that's considered ra'ui, and since it's only ra'ui, it's new money that's coming into her possession, then only a son would get it, but not a husband. And let's take a look. Michlal, says the Gemara, Michlal, to Rav Huna savar bal notel baroi b'muchzak. So Rav Huna, who says the husband does get it. How do you explain his position? Right? You make a very good argument. This is like new money into the daughter's estate. So why would the husband get it? So Amar Rabbi Lezer, davar ze niftach b'gdolim v'nistayim b'ktanim. So such a lovely word. So the great rabbi started this discussion, Rav Anan and Rav Huna, and it's left for us, the pipsqueaks here, to wrap it up. To explain, obviously very humble type of statement, to explain how this all makes sense. And here's how it makes sense. Kol ha'omer acharayich ka'omer me'ach shavdami. Whoever says after you is saying as if it's from now. What does that mean? It means when he says to grandma and after the grandma to my heirs, so who is going to have the property in perpetuity? Who's going to own the property in perpetuity? The heirs. Not, although the grandma gets it first, it's the person at the end of the chain that is going to be the full owner of that property. So he says when you say it's going to go to Reuven and after Reuven to Shimon, it's like from right now you gave the karka to Shimon. And Reuven has the rights to benefit from the karka and use the karka and do whatever he wants, right? He has those rights until he dies, but the karka is owned by Shimon.
Like he's a custodian.
So when he says first to grandma and then to my heirs, it's basically like he immediately gave the property to the daughter, because that was the heir at the time he was saying it, And then the grandma has the right to use it as long as she's alive. Now, the logical consequence of that would be to say that if the grandma were to sell it, it would not be a valid sale, right? The grandma could sell her rights to it. The grandma could let somebody else, benefit from it and plow it or whatever while she's still alive, but the grandmother would not be able to break the chain because it actually is owned by the daughter.
Right, so
if it's owned by the daughter and the daughter dies, of course the husband
So that principle basically ameliorates the distinction between muchzak and ra'ui. There is no ra'ui.
In this case.
There is no such thing as ra'ui.
And what's really interesting is it started like a debate of parsing the words of the gift. Does your shy mean your shy or your shay your shy, right? It was a question of how we parse the words. And in the end, it's not about that at all. It's about halachic positions. It's about the husband doesn't get muchzak, and whether her rights to it, it's like he fully owns it now, or she only has eventual, she's going to get it, right? So it becomes now a halachic debate of the husband's limiting when the husband inherits, only in muchzak, and debating to what degree she owned it while she was alive. So it's very interesting, the shift, right, from like a technical language discussion to a halachic debate.
Yes. When we had this sugya earlier about, we said acharecha lo ploni, whatever. Right. Didn't we say that the person really does get it? That even if the grandma were to sell it, then
that's a debate. That's exactly this debate. If it's omer me'ach shavdami or not. So now let's take a look. Wait, I hold on one second. I just want to read that with one more sentence that finishes the thought. Amar Rabba, Mistavra Taima Dibnei Marava, and this closes up what we started with. Rabba says, Bnei Marava's position that the husband doesn't get it makes sense. Okay, because who's Bnei Marava here? Shalchamitam. They're the one that say we rule like Ravana, right? So the position of Bnei Marava makes sense of Eretz Yisrael. What? Why? How do you see that? The Kadim Savta V'Zavna Zvina Zvine, like we said before, because the grandma can break the chain. Now that might be a little circular. Maybe you could debate whether the grandmother could break the chain. But if you assume that when grandmother has the right to sell it, and if she sells it, nobody is going to get it, then there's no way you can say that this daughter is muhzak.
Right, you can't say kol me'acharayim.
So it might be a little bit of a circular reasoning, right? The person who says the daughter is muhzak and goes to the husband might say grandmother can't sell it.
But it's not a
But by assuming that grandmother can sell it and break the chain, he's saying that shows that the person who's next in the chain is not considered to be muhzak.
But it's not it's not a syllogistic argument. It's simply aligning consistently all the concepts that are working together.
But if I debate your assumption, then you haven't proven anything, right? You're just proving something that's consistent with your assumption.
Yes. It's tantamount to saying the two parties have two different sets of assumptions.
But they're not proving anything. They're just saying this is consistent. This is consistent with what we owe.
That's exactly
If we owe that the grandmother can sell it and break the chain, then that's consistent with saying that the daughter is not muhzak.
Right.
And since she's not muhzak, the husband is not going to get it. A son will get it, not a husband.
In this moment, not arguing. It's just simply clarifying the position.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
all right. Yeah, David, you had a question.
No, it's clarified.
Oh, it's clarified. Look at that. All good things come to those who wait. Okay, so now the Gemara says like this. All right, so let me just check the response 1 minute. If he says explicitly. Okay, anyway, fine. All right, so now the Gemara wraps this up. Amar Rav Elazar. Okay, no, we just did. Amar Rav Papa. Says Rav Papa. Hilchsa, the halacha is, ein abal noter b'ro'ek b'muchzak. That was never debated, but we're sort of like re-emphasizing that. And maybe what we're also really saying is, we rule here like Bnei Ma'arava, that the husband doesn't get it. That might be implicitly what we're saying. Okay. Ein abal noter b'ro'ek b'muchzak. Let me just check the Rashbam. 1 minute. Yeah, so the Rashbam says that it means that he's just here once again reinforcing the position of Rav Anan and Bnei Ma'arava. Okay, so ein abal nota b'ro'ek b'muchzak. In this case, obviously in general, but also in this case, we rule that the husband does not get it. The Eina Bechor, which would sound like we don't say Kol Omer, Acharecha Komer Me'ach Shavdami, number one. The Eina Bechor Nota B'ro'ek B'muchzak. Now that's also obvious. Everybody knows the Bechor doesn't get Ra'oi. So what that means is, in all the issues we've been debating, okay, so number one, going back to yesterday, the debate of Rabbi and the Chachamim, what happens when the property naturally increases? Okay, rental income comes in. A cow gives birth. So he's basically taking a restrictive view of what's considered to be, by saying this, because nobody disagrees with the principle, his question is interpreting the scope of the principle. He's basically understood to be saying, we're going to interpret what's part of the estate in narrow terms. He does not get, in those issues we've been debating, the Bechor doesn't get. So he's not going to get,
when he does.
Right, something getting thicker, a cow getting fatter, fine, everybody agrees to that. But new rental income, interest, a cow giving birth, sorry, Bechor does not get. Okay.
Now get a double portion.
Apples on the tree. He
What?
gets the tree, but not the apples when the apples come out and ripen.
No, everyone gets the apple. The question is, does he get two?
Right, he gets them. Right, he doesn't get the extra portion. Right. No, that would be considered something new. If there weren't apples and now there are apples, that's something new. He would not get double.
Yeah.
The aim, now, that's fine in one thing. But remember, even if you take the restrictive position that he does not get anything that any natural growth of the estate, but you might still say debts are considered part of the estate. How are you going to rule in that case? Also restrictively. The Eina Bechor Noto Pishnayim B'milveh, and he doesn't get double in any debts. Bein Shagavu Karka, Bein Shagavu Mos. Okay, so basically the answer to all of these debates is that anything that's gray is not considered to be muchzak. Only stuff that is totally in possession of the father is the stuff that the Bechor gets.
And he certainly doesn't get any.
Okay,
rebate.
what?
He certainly doesn't get any of the rebate.
He certainly doesn't get any of the rebate. And one last line, umilze she'imo palgi. Now, here's a very cute question. Let's say the Bechor owes his dad $1,000, okay? And he's got, I don't know, one brother, and now he dies. So money coming into the estate, the father dies. So if the son would say, well, I still owe $1,000 to the estate, I'm going to pay my $1,000 to the estate. And now we're splitting. So now do I get 500 and my brother gets 500? Okay, because it's ra'ui. It wasn't muhzak. It's new money coming into the estate. I don't get a double portion. Or do I say, well, I mean, come on, it's my own money. So I get two. I do get a double portion. I get 2/3, and my brother only gets 1/3. So his answer is palgi. Okay, that we're going to split. So I get a sixth. I get a half of an extra portion in that. Now, what's the logic of splitting?
So he gets a half of an extra portion, not
right,
50-50.
meaning
Not 50-50.
Not 50-50. If dad here dies, okay, and here's the make this guy smaller.
You got to make the Bechor bigger.
Here's the Bechor. He gives his $1,000 into the estate after the father dies. So one scenario is 500. The other scenario is,
666.
well, let's call it like this. Okay, you have two portions of 333 go to the Bechor, and one portion of 333 goes to the other son. Right? That would be if he got Pishnayim. So does he get Pishnayim and get 666, or does he only get half and get 500? So the answer is he gets half of a portion. So if you divide 333 by a half, what are you going to get? Like 166? Wait a minute. 166 plus 333 is going to be 500.
I'm sorry.
No, that doesn't work. Hold on.
You lost me.
Hold on.
Take a number that's divisible by 3 instead of 1,000.
125 added to.
Oh, okay. In this way, when there's only one brother, it's the same. It would be different if it were There would be different if it were 3 brothers. Okay, let's say it's 3 brothers, and that'll make it easy because of the math also. Okay, let's say it was 2 brothers. Okay, so in this case of the 1,000, it would be 333 each. Okay, if you did it that way, if everybody got equal, and if you got a double portion, then he would get 250 plus 250. He'd get 500, and each of them would get 250. Yes. Okay, everybody got that? That's if you got a double portion.
There are 3 brothers, a
They're
Bechor,
a Bechor and 2 younger brothers.
But that's his money that he borrowed.
Yes,
from the father.
his own money. He
So
pays
he
back
really-
the estate.
He really owes his brothers.
Right, but conceptually, he's paying back the estate and then getting it back.
Brother.
So if he gets a double portion, he gets 500. If he gets a single portion, he gets 333. Now, the answer is you take this extra portion, this 250, and you split it in half, which is 125. So he's going to get 375, and they're going to each get half of that, which let's just call it about $60, 62 and change, and they're each going to get 310. Okay, so you take his extra portion and you split it in half. So what sense does that make? So the Rashbam says, well, we don't know. Since the Bechor owed the father money, well, he wasn't just like some stam debtor out there, right? And therefore, maybe, and the Bechor would want, conceptually, to have paid the father before the father died, because that would entitle him to a double portion. So maybe because it was all in the family and he would have wanted to have paid the father before the father died, that money might be considered like that's already part of the estate. So since we don't know, should we consider his money part of the estate or not, we're going to split it. Okay? It's like, right, and it's like yachloku. So we don't know whether if the money was part of the estate, he was getting a double portion. If it wasn't, he was not getting a double portion. Since we don't know, we'll split the difference.
You need a word to label something between muhzak and ra'ui.
Right. Right.
No word for that.
Right. Now, I just want to end. We have 2 more minutes. I just want to end with important Tosos. I particularly like, the Tosos discusses different issues about ksuva and what's considered to be muhzak by ksuva. By ksuva, he says we have a broader sense of what is muhzak. I just mentioned that. Okay. The father dies. The wife now collects her ksuva. Okay, the husband dies, right? The wife collects her ksuva. She also doesn't collect her ksuva by new property that comes into the estate, but we have a much broader definition by ksuva to ensure that she'll be protected in terms of what's considered to be part of the estate. Number one. But number two, I really want you to see this. 3 lines down in the narrow lines of Tosfos, Kuf Chav Vav Amud Aleph, which continued from the previous Amud. He says, Ubizman hazeh, the takinu geonim. I told you about this. The gavya, 3 lines down in the narrow lines of Kuf Chav Vav Amud Aleph.
3 lines in the narrow.
Okay. Ubizman hazeh, the takinu
I
geonim.
got it. Okay, sorry.
Nowadays, the Gonim have established the gavya isha b'achov mimetatali diyasmi, that creditors and the wife with her ksuva can collect even from cattle, which makes sense, right? You're a more commercial society, a less landed society, right? If people are restricted, they lend out money and the guy dies and I can only collect land, it's going to really hurt, the commerce. So the Gaonim, because people aren't going to lend money. So Gaonim established that no, now even if the person dies, you can collect from his non-landed property. Okay, so now that that's true, Kimo Makarka Yisomim Shugava B'Chavas Avir and Bein Makarka Bein Metatli Choseres Isha V'Gova Mehen, etc., etc. Anyway, so then he points out the applications, but he basically says that now we have from broad. I wanted you to just see that this question about what can somebody collect from after a person dies is expanded in the time of the
Why is it metaltale diyatme? Why just metaltale? Like now we can.
No, because if the guy's alive and he doesn't have any land, you can force him to pay from his. You can go and seize his car. You can take his computer. You can take his laptop, whatever. So if the guy's own metaltalin, you do have to pay off. But if he's dead, then the creditor doesn't have liens on the metaltalin that was left behind. He only has liens on the carcass.
Oh, that's the metaltalin. In other words, it's metaltalin the yorship.
Yeah.
The yorship.
Yep. Okay. We'll end it here.
Rabbi,
Yes.
please spell principle the way